Mr. Secretary, you have said that domestic extremism, quote, is the single greatest terrorism-related threat in the United States. What are the best ways to combat the domestic terrorism threat?
I think, of course, we have to address the underlying cause. And in fact, the president is convening a summit against hate next week. We have to address why do people radicalize to violence. And we have to work with local communities to equip and empower them to address the threat that could materialize. You know, we have seen in Buffalo, New York, in Uvalde, Texas, in Highland Park, individuals who showed signs of descending down a path to violence. And we have to educate people on how to identify the signs when somebody is in need of help and to bring that help to bear so that that violence does not materialize.
Mr. Secretary, I want to get you on two things before we go. It was reported this week that President Biden has allowed 1 million migrants into the country as they await hearings. What's the Department of Homeland Security's plan to address the influx of migrants waiting in a clogged immigration system?
We have to remember that what we do in the Department of Homeland Security is that we enforce the law. We enforce the laws that Congress has passed. And those are laws of accountability as well as laws of humanitarian relief. We have an asylum system in this country. When individuals arrive in the United States and make a claim of fear of persecution by reason of their membership in a particular social group, they are able to make a claim for asylum in immigration court. And if their claim does not succeed, they are removed from our country pursuant to the law. If their claim does succeed, they're granted asylum. That's what we do in the Department of Homeland Security. That is what the law provides that Congress has passed.
Mm-hmm. And finally, Mr. Secretary, one of the reactions has been for governors to send the migrants elsewhere. And I'm wondering, is it appropriate for the governor of Texas to send busloads of migrants to Washington, D.C., New York, and Chicago?
We work very closely with state and local officials who work closely with us. It is very, very important that these efforts to address the needs of migrants, the claims of migrants, as well as the needs and claims of others, that we work in a coordinated fashion, that we work in partnership. The failure to coordinate with us causes disruption, and that is unfortunate.
Welcome to Burn Babylon Burn. This is not a news show. It's an opinion show. We encourage you to do your own research. We do not give financial, legal, medical, or any kind of advice. Now enjoy the show.
Welcome to Burn Babylon Burn, episode 20. And we let it in there with DHS Director Mayorkas telling us that white people are the terrorists, and if you're from another country, welcome. Come right on in. Now, which direction would you like to take that, Mud?
For me, the direction of let us take care of the problem.
Let us take care of which problem?
The problem of housing and taking care of the immigrants.
Oh, well, I got a clip for that. Let's see what the King Chad DeSantis of Florida had to say about that.
I also was a little bit perplexed when I heard that the president is scrambling to get his cabinet together to try to address the fact that you have governors who are helping to relocate illegal aliens to sanctuary cities. Now, he didn't scramble to get his cabinet together when we had millions of people illegally pouring across the southern border. He didn't scramble to get his cabinet together when you had 43 53 migrants die in some trailer in Texas because they were neglected by the federal government. You didn't see him scramble to get his cabinet together when we had Americans that were victimized by criminal aliens that he led across the border. You didn't see him scramble to get his cabinet together when we hit record fentanyl deaths, which that fentanyl is coming across his open border. It's only when you have 50 illegal aliens end up in a very wealthy, rich sanctuary enclave that he decides to scramble on this. And so I think what we are doing what we're continuing to do is use every tool at our disposal to insulate the state of Florida from the negative ramifications of his reckless border policies. And yes, that involves helping with transport. It involves suing on catch and release, which we have done. It's involved making sure that contractors are held accountable if they're facilitating this into our state. And we have a statewide grand jury that's looking at different types of practices that may be going on in the state that's exacerbating the problem. And so, the end of the day, this is a massive policy failure by the president. This is a massive and intentional policy that is causing huge amount of damage all across the country, and it's all rooted in a failure to take care that the laws are faithfully executed and to fulfill his oath of office. And so instead of scrambling and worrying about a bunch of rich people and having 50, and oh, by the way, they already bust them out. They're gone. They said we want everyone, no one's illegal, and they're gone within 48 hours. And so why not actually look at what's going on? There were more Acela corporate journalists in Martha's Vineyard today than have ever gone down to the southern border to look what's going on. Why don't you go down there and look what some of those communities have to deal with every day?
And he's exactly right. I'm always at the border. I'm currently not at the border, but I'm at the border a lot with trucking. Trucking and the border go hand in hand. And the other day, I went into a yard, and the guys there couldn't speak English, and so it's more Mexico than it is Texas at this point at the border.
It's the audacity of them to look at you and say, "Let us solve the problem. Let us solve the problem. We're the ones that are supposed to solve the problem." For how many people ended up in Martha's Vineyard? Was it 50?
It was 48 to be exact.
48 people.
They instantly booted them out.
What was the town?
Get out of here.
What was the town in Texas?
Oh,
where there
probably
was
Del Rio, Eagle Pass. There's so many cities along the border of Texas where, they're letting them in. And
but the federal government is stopping the border patrol from arresting these individuals. And in Del Rio, 15,000 to 25,000 Haiti immigrants turn up, and they're camping underneath a bridge. The town of Del Rio is a town of 30,000 people.
The word has gotten around.
It's almost doubling their effing population.
Yeah, the Venezuelans are now coming through the border right there as well. So, the word has gotten around that if you want to come to the United States, you come through Texas, and Del Rio might be the best spot. I've actually crossed the border at Del Rio for bike touring, and it wasn't so porous. And that was during the Obama administration. So things have changed for sure.
The audacity of them to say, "Let us take care of the problem. Let the federal government take care of the problem. We got this, guys. We got this. F you guys." Like, seriously.
Well, they're clearly not taking care of it. I do see a lot of Department of Public Safety Texas troopers out in the borderlands I see a lot more of them actually than I do see Homeland Security slash Border Patrol, and that is the department that Mayorkas heads. He's the head of Department of Homeland Security, which Border Patrol is under that, and so they're letting them straight in. That's basically what's going on these days.
Yeah, they're letting them straight in, and they complain when they come to their communities. It's
right.
This is the best play. Like this is boss mode by DeSantis, because yes, it was a really good play to send the immigrants. I think it was Governor Abbott from Texas that sent the immigrants in front of Kamala Harris's house. I mean, that was a really good play. I mean, that was hilarious. There was several great interviews from that.
Yeah, I subtitled this episode "Illegal Dumping." So, yeah, it's just, dumping your illegals off in places that they don't usually end up, and yeah, so. Like I said, our culture in Texas has changed, and there's a lot of things happening there, and that we've got a guy running for governor that wants to leave the border even more wide open, which is frightening. So we're going to end up with lots of drugs, lots of crime, and we've got plenty of our own problems.
But the funny thing is, and this is what makes America America, the Mexicans are swinging hard Republican / libertarian right now. I mean, still, in my opinion, Trump has brought the true libertarian aspects of the Libertarian Party into the Republican Party. He's melded the two together. And he's.
I think he inherited what Ron Paul started several years ago. I don't think he's anywhere near a Ron Paul, but he inherited that which was inherited originally by the Tea Party, which Ron Paul divorced himself from, and then it moved along the process, and now you've got, as James Evan Pilato puts it, a copy of a copy of a copy, and now it's just this thing, just on the copy machine, kill me, So
I disagree with you on the kill me part. I think this is a brilliance of Donald Trump. And Scott Adams mentioned this. He started exploring this idea today. He started exploring the idea that Donald Trump supporters are basically like a pirate ship. As long as you can get something done and you're not dragging the ship down, you're part of the party. As long as you're keeping things moving, Donald Trump essentially has turned the Republican Party into a pirate party. It's a bunch of pirates, and we're going to do whatever the F needs to be done to get the things effing done. Your opinion?
I hope that that's correct. I think that as long as, if he gets in there again, and I really don't think that any Republican nominee can knock him off. I don't even think DeSantis could do it without getting a black eye, and that's not something that he wants. And it's really,
DeSantis is way too smart to get involved.
Yeah.
The only reason that this is going to happen, the only reason DeSantis would get involved is and the only reason Trump will not run again, in my opinion, is if Trump has a medical problem.
He does have a medical problem, and that's that he prescribed medicine that was bad for people, and they all took it, thinking that he was right, and he hasn't backed off of it. It's not a blind spot. That's my eyes are open spot, bro. But the thing is, I know that you cannot knock him off. But I think that is some of the rope that he can hang himself with, to turn the old phrase, not anything that's like violent or anything like that. I'm just saying that, and I have to clarify that because YouTube is ridiculous. But yeah, he was given enough rope, and he's been offered chances. I showed you with Alex Jones, he's been offered many, many chances to back off of these vaccine things, and he never did, and he still stands by it. And
But
I think by the time he's a nominee, that a lot more people will have had heart conditions and things like that, that it could really, really hurt his campaign.
It's going to be a very interesting. This is going to be the one play that we see that is he could lose because of the libertarian perspective or the libertarian outlook on certain things. Once again, in my opinion, the libertarian outlook on things is always looking for the worst, which is not a bad thing. But worst case scenario is not always case scenario. In my opinion, personally, and this is not medical advice. In my opinion,
right, we cleared that up.
If I just want to restate it, 50 to 60 years or older, it's not a bad idea to take the vaccine, in my opinion. 50 to 60 years.
I think
maybe 60 to 70, it's still a gray spot.
Well, you already know what I think. So I don't think that it should have ever even been made. But people decided to become test subjects, and they weren't treated as if this was a test, but it was a live test, and people signed away their rights whenever they took it. So everybody that took it, it really is on you because you signed away your rights, and that's really unfortunate. But the people that promoted it, like Donald Trump, who promoted it big time, those people are part of the reason those people made that decision, and it could really hurt his campaign.
But
Biden recommended it too.
But here's the distinction in that. When you're in war, which is essentially what this was a war between us. This is just an opinion. This was a war between us and China. China released something. We unwittingly funded it, and Fauci, I think, is to blame. There's a lot of blame to go around.
It was funded through Eco Health Alliance, Peter Daszak, and it was made in China.
Allegedly,
you can follow the paper trail on that. It exists, but yeah,
we still need to say allegedly.
If you want to pretend like this stuff didn't happen, no. Eco Health Alliance was the money behind the creation of this, and that $6 trillion that they printed was how they implemented it and how they got this vaccine program, and why you couldn't drive 6 miles down the road without seeing 3 signs that say "Get vaccinated." The whole campaign, all the shots that they gave them in other countries, man, I wish I was going to get a clip of Rand Paul grilling Fauci, but I was like, we're going to go along with this. But I didn't think we were going to talk about this. And it is kind of like a verboten topic because the censorship heavy people that don't want you to have this opinion, but it's a true opinion, we'll cut you off.
Yes, but I'm going to try to see if I can get this point across. There's a persuasion game to change hearts and minds. So one thing that I tell this to my mom on a regular basis, because my mom is extremely opinionated and everything has to be her way, and she's a little bit, she's a little different. And I say the same thing to my dad. If you push, they'll push back. If you try to flank, you have a better chance. I think the libertarians are making a problem because they're just pushing. They're pushing and shoving. And I think the same thing for a lot of Republicans. They're pushing and shoving this one thing. I don't disagree. I'm just saying it's the wrong way to approach it. It's stop pushing and shoving, because if I were to walk up to you and I were to push you, what would be your reaction?
Probably push back. But the thing is, it's one thing. It's not all libertarians, and two, it really, there's going to be a large group of people that have changed their mind on this thing by that time. I can already see it happening. There's a whole bunch of people that were zombified by the media during this whole thing, and they were like, yeah, I'll take as many shots as you have to, just let me go back to going out and partying again. And that's a lot of people were like that, and they just really wanted the whole thing to be over with, and they were told, they were promised that was the way to do it, and it's still not over.
I don't disagree with you, but this is part of the persuasion game. Politics is all about persuasion, and it's getting into a different mindset. This is what Trump gets. This is because we're talking to the changers, the lions. So I've been studying Robert Kiyosaki. That's Rich Dad Poor Dad. I've been studying him for about 2 months now. And then we've got this other guy. Oh, can I remember this guy's name? The guy that says you just need to save money and not go into debt. I can't remember his name. Do you remember that name off the top of your head?
No idea.
He's got a more generic name. I can't remember his name. So we've got this one guy that says you've just got to save money and not go into debt. And then you've got Robert Kiyosaki that says make money off of debt. And the people that I feel like the libertarians line up more with, and the people that are like no vaccines whatsoever, and it's a mindset, it's like a mindset of a lion, like squash this thing. The thing is it's a rare breed. Most people are going to come into that area of persuasion to where they've not dug that deep, and they just need to hear more voices. Whereas the people like Robert Kiyosaki is like, this is the way you make money. This is the way you make money exponentially. And there's a distinction between the two. Not everybody is meant to be an entrepreneur. And whenever it comes to the persuasion game, it's like the libertarians in your and my stream of libertarianism are looking at everybody else like they're just like us, rather than understanding they're different. They have a different purpose. They have a different persuasion. And we're not going to be able to spread out and change minds if we have this hard, solid period. We need to understand that there's a way to reach out better, to send the message out more clearly that these people are trying to control us. And if we keep on running up to these people and shoving them and saying, you're effing wrong, they're not going to change their minds, because they're going to push back. If I shove you, you push back. That's every human interaction.
That's not what I'm trying to say, though. What I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. I'm just saying that is the rope that he gave the other side to hang him, and I can already see them trying to do it, and he's had chance after chance after chance to wiggle his way out of it, and he's not doing it. So there we go. And I think ultimately it won't be any of the crap they found through the FBI. It will be that will take him down. I mean, this massive extermination program, in my opinion, it's the worst thing that's ever happened to humanity. Really, if you look at how many people took this shot, the fact that a lot of these people are infertile now, possibly not medical advice, but yeah, there you go. All of that stuff. This thing was massive. It was destructive, and if they put it all on him, and you see the way the media spins things, they act like they had a completely different position the whole freaking time whenever they have a chance to, and they will do it. They just like January 6th, they're like, oh, look at this riot, this crazy riot. We would never riot. They burned down cities the entire summer before. They did it, and they were proud of it, and the vice president bailed people out for it. So, like, you can see that happening all the time. They don't care about appearing hypocritical whatsoever. It doesn't taint them. The same people will follow whatever the heck they tell them to do. So whenever they do this pivot, and I can see it coming, everybody can see it coming a mile away. They're getting rid of all the people that push the stuff the most on CNN. They just demoted Don Lemon, and that is where they're going next. When you watch them, you can see what they're going to do.
But in my opinion, this is part of the persuasion game. Politics is a giant persuasion game. It's a massive game of chess. And you have to understand, most people don't pay attention to the news as much as you and I do. You and I are in a unique area, although I think both you and I, if we were just working at restaurants to where we couldn't listen to it, we would still listen to another 8 hours afterwards rather than listening to freaking watching TV shows. We would stay informed. A lot of people don't stay informed, and they're operating off of what's being pushed in front of their face. We're like the 10%, maybe the 5% of people that are really paying attention to the statistics, really paying attention to what's going on. And in my opinion, Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis recognize that. And they're playing to this game. So does Rand Paul. These guys are heavy in politics, and they're not straight out saying the vaccines are killing you. That's not what they're saying. They're asking questions. Because
right, you can't say that. We can say that because we get like 20 viewers a week at best. But yeah, well, we can say that. We can get away with it because we're not big enough for the censors to come after. I say it on Twitter. My account's frozen for 12 hours or a week or 3 days or whatever their stupid penalty box is. It hasn't happened for a while because I've figured out how to use code words. And that, that's maybe something we should do here. But anyway, I'm tired of being chased around about it. I've heard them say it for years and years. There's a group called the Club of Rome, and they want a large portion of the population gone. And that's what this whole Great Reset thing.
That's what all the commies want. All the socialists want. The socialist countries, Norway or Sweden, one of the two. There's like, oh, we got rid of Down syndrome. Oh, well done. You just killed all the kids that had Down syndrome. Well done, you effing demonic-minded people. You want to congratulate yourselves for killing everybody with Down syndrome. You fucking evil bastards. That's my opinion. Anyway,
and that's why they're their big push for abortion, their big push for the transgender thing, because that ultimately kills people's reproductive organs. The culture. I mean, like that's where I don't have kids because of the culture. I just figured this out. I'm like, oh crap. Well, it's really my fault. It's my choices that led to it. But at the same time, I think the last 3 women that I dated couldn't have kids. So, there's a lot of things going on. And that also includes some of them were victims of pharma. So, like the birth control stuff, whenever they take it as a teenager, eventually makes them infertile forever. Did you know that?
Oh
it somehow happens. Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway.
Well, that's a good tangent. I mean, like for me, the reason that I don't have kids and I've never had a girlfriend is because the women around me, the women that I've met, they're effing scary. They're authoritarian minded. They don't know how to do anything or create anything. They just want to force their will on you. Like, I'm pretty sure at this point that I have to go to Israel, Ukraine, Russia, or like Colombia to find a wife. Like my goal is set, make a lot of money, go overseas, find a wife, bring her back here. That to me is the best way to find a wife at this point.
Just wait at the border, dude. They'll come right to you.
It's true. I could
hang out a little while.
I could go down to Texas and dedicate my wedding in honor of Joe Biden. Thank you. You brought across so many women. I actually had a choice of which woman I could have to be my bride. I mean, all the people that actually come across the border, they're probably going to eventually vote Republican if they get citizenship. I mean, they had to fight across the hardest terrain, deal with the hardest military group within like 500 miles or 5,000 miles. Like they actually had to go through a lot of shit to get here. So they're probably hardened people that will turn out voting Republican because they feel that you have to have hard work to achieve what you want in your dreams.
I agree. A lot of people in Latin America are victims of socialism because the pendulum swings there. It's either really, brutal right or socialism, communism, like brutal communism, and it swings back and forth between those things all the time. And yeah, so the thing is, I think that a lot of these people are told, hey, if you do this way, that way, whatever, then you're gonna be okay. Well, we'll let you have housing if you promise you'll vote Democrat, and all these other fun things that all these welfare programs do. The welfare programs have done nothing but keep people on those plantations forever. It's funny because really the thing that the Republicans should do, since they don't really have true principles, they just pretend to, is say that, hey, we're going to have all of these illegals vote Republican. They'll kick them out in a second. That's how you get what you want from the Democrats right there. They proved it at Martha's Vineyard just the other day. They'll just kick them out in a second whenever they don't do what they're meant to do as the tools.
Well, for them, it's just straight up NIMBYism. They don't even know which way those people want to vote. They just don't want to have to deal with them as a problem. And to me, this is the most annoying thing about Democrats, socialists, and communists. They want the state to take care of the problem. If I was presented with 5 people and it's like, hey, we're legally here and we want a job and we're going to work our asses off, I would say, awesome. I'll figure out how to get you a job. I'll make money off of you by getting you a job. And I'm pretty sure in 5 years, you'll be running your own lawn care business. But I'll be happy because I actually have somebody I can depend on while they make money off of me, to buy their own equipment. It's going to take a year or two, et cetera, but they're going to be working their butts off. But that's not the attitude that Democrats have. The attitude Democrats have is, hey, government, my God, government, my God, let me pray to you and ask you for a solution. Oh, you don't have a solution? Well, let me take the problem and ship it off to Cape Cod. Let me just find some way to take the problem and move it somewhere else, rather than look at the problem as a possible solution. It's just a shuffleboard. It's just a managerial class that actually doesn't know how to create anything. They just manage other people's stuff, and they think they're special because of that.
Well, so they use your money to bribe people to vote for them, so that they can get more of your money to bribe people to vote for them. And it's a machine. It's snowballed, and that's how they operate. That's how they've operated for a long time. It's amazing that just now people like Bannon are finally understanding this enough to communicate it to other people and get some activism going on that side. And you see how they're reacting to that. They've gone so crazy that they arrested my boy, my friend, my mustache guy, Mike Lindell. In fact, here's MyPillow. I can prove it.
Here's MyPillow. It's MyPillow, but it's
MyPillow Mike. Yeah, MyPillow, MyPillow. Yeah, my. Yeah, I just added the other one for fun. Anyway, they went and arrested Mike. They took his phone, and now he's going to sue the FBI.
We are suing, as you're hearing it here first, everybody, we're suing the United States government and the FBI.
The clip.
And this isn't just to get the phone back. This is my first, fourth, and fifth Amendment rights were broken in the constitutional right. And this needs to go everywhere. We're not going to put up with this. We're not going to be the Gestapo like in Nazi Germany. Steve, this is, we're being proactive. I was on the phone with these attorneys. I said, no, I want to sue. What can we do? We got all the lawyers on the phone. They looked up all these statutes. We're going to go to places where no man has gone before. This will set a precedent. This has to stop. Nobody gets to bash people's door down and you get 40 seconds to answer your door. Nobody gets to corner and take a phone away of a private citizen, their company phone, so they're and their hearing aids, everything else. Everything I had was in that phone of all these businesses, MyPillow, My Store, Frank's Speech, passwords to be able to do money wires that I can't do right now. Those aren't in any cloud. I mean, this has got to stop, Steve, and we're going to do it.
Yeah, it's got to stop. But yeah, I picked up that MyPillow a couple of weeks ago, and the reason why is I wanted to buy one from Walmart, and they didn't have one there. And I think it was just I heard Mike on Bannon's show for a second, and I'm like, you know what? I should really help that guy out, support him. Not that he really needs my help. I just want to, you know, I think he's pretty cool. Unfortunately, he's hired Dershowitz as one of his lawyers. Dershowitz is a very troublesome guy with some Epstein ties. But anyway, he's I think Mike is cool, and I think he's built himself up from below nothing. He was a mess at one point. He was like Hunter Biden at one point and built himself up. And now they're stealing his phone in the Hardee's drive-thru on his way back from a hunting trip and going through it. And now they're also, obviously, everybody knows this, they're going after as many people as they can. And regardless if you're a Trump guy or not, if you have views that are not within the, you know, global democracy nonsense, because it's not democracy. This is totalitarianism. It's technocratic totalitarianism that they want to push on you. If you have views outside of that, they're going for you. If you're a gun owner, they're going for you. If you're Christian, they're going for you. All of the things. If you're white, they're going for you. It really is. It's come down to that.
Well, it's worse than that. If you're Hispanic, they call you the white face of Hispanic racism.
Right.
If you're black,
right.
they call you the black face of white supremacism. It makes no sense. It's like I'm 1/4 Colombian, so I'm 1/4 Hispanic, and I get called racist by some family members on a regular basis. It doesn't make any sense. If I'm racist, like if we're talking about Hitler level racism, it's like me being 1/4 Jew and trying to condemn all other Jews. I would be in the concentration camp and I would be killed. That's the way that would go. Racism does not work this way.
Yeah, there's a long story there, but I'll have to explain that to you someday to where you can understand it. But I'm not going to explain it on air. But yeah, it was prison camps, and it's a little different than what TV told you.
Okay.
Yeah.
But my point is that the contradictions don't make any sense. The contradictions are all over the place. I mean,
they're not. They don't care about making sense. I already explained that. They're going to be the most this or the most that. It's just like how they said. You know, they said that you have to take that shot last year, and then whenever Roe versus Wade was overturned, they're like, my bodily autonomy. You know, they will contradict themselves every single step of the way.
But with Mike Lindell, literally, it's like, you probably could have got all the information off the cloud, because most of these smartphones now, they all connect straight to the cloud anyway. Why didn't you ask him for his phone?
Part of it was intimidation.
Are they just trying to create news clips? I think they're just trying to create news clips to where they can try to back Trump in a corner. They're trying to figure out some way to attack Trump's allies. Because if they were to ask for Mike Lindell's phone, he'd be like, okay. That's basically what he said in a later clip, like part of that clip.
Yeah, he said that in that clip, in fact. Yeah, he said he would have given it to them. And yeah, maybe it was a later part of that clip, actually, because I ended up cutting it right before the show, and it's fresh on my mind.
We're not going to do we're not going to do a podcast just about Mike Lindell doing an interview. I mean, it would have been like 40 minutes, and we would have been copyright
right.
stuff.
Yeah. But
But in
yeah,
a later portion of that podcast, I'm pretty sure he says if they had asked me, I would have given them my phone. Instead, they raided me at a Hardee's.
yeah.
Are we? What was it? 2 weeks ago, we had Joe Biden sitting in front of what was it? The Liberty Hall or Liberty, the Philadelphia Hall, full on looking like an authoritarian. And then a week or two later, he's acting like an authoritarian blatantly, just out in the open. That's what a Gestapo style police state does. That's what a communist style police state does. He's connecting the ends of the horseshoes.
It's on purpose. This is part of the show. Welcome to Clown World. It's part of the show. I just hope none of our friends, nobody that watches this show and nobody that watches other shows I watch gets swept up in this, because this is gonna get crazy. I mean, it's already crazy. They're already raiding the guy in the Hardee's. It's gonna get even crazier than that. They knocked down a woman's door because she didn't answer within 40 seconds. And so there's all kinds of stuff happening with this, and there will be a lot more.
Wait, look, I think Alan Dershowitz, he's actually a really great lawyer. He may have some shady ties, but he's a great lawyer. If he doesn't get Mike Lindau on this case, it's going. Either he's in on it, or
he's the fix,
or it's the judges. The judges are bought and sold. That's what my opinion would be, because Alan Dershowitz has had a lot. Like, his opinions are pretty sound and pretty thought through. You know, whenever you get to a certain level, you've got connections. I mean, technically, Trump has connections with Jeffrey Epstein, technically, but basically Trump kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. So there's a lot of different ways to view the angles. But if Alan Dershowitz, in my opinion, if Alan Dershowitz does not get this tossed out, it's because the judges have been bought and sold from like some deep pockets of the judicial of the government system, because they want to shut Trump down so bad. They are so terrified of him coming in, because the first 4 years was a dry run on him figuring things out. And they successfully shut him down for the last year because of COVID lockdowns. They successfully effed things up for him and managed to get the experts into positions to where they could influence him. I think they're terrified of the next 4 years of Trump. And also, I think they're terrified of DeSantis. But I think because DeSantis is a more unknown quantity, they think they can figure out DeSantis. And that's why they're trying to get DeSantis to run against Trump in 2 years or 2.5 years, whatever it is. I think they're trying to set that up, but DeSantis has basically already said, I'm out. There's, I think it was Mike Pompeo, I think, is the only person that's kind of given opening to where he's running against Trump. But almost nobody on the Republican side is willing to run against Trump, because they know he will end their careers. And so my point is well, no, Cruz won't run against Trump either.
Oh yeah, he won't do it again.
Point is, he won't do it again. Yeah, he was just like, F that, man. And F that. I'm not going anywhere near that. And that's why the Democrats / the commies are so effing terrified of Trump right now. And that's why they're trying to figure out anything they can do.
I think that they can't deal with him if he knows who his friends and who his enemies really are. And I don't really think he knows who all of his friends are or his enemies. I think he still has a lot of deep plants around him, and I don't know what 4 more years of Trump would do, but I do know that anything beats the crazy gas prices and the welcoming in of the World Economic Forum policies that Biden has just laid out a golden carpet for. And
let me see. I don't know if this analogy will work. Let's try it. We've got Elon Musk trying to buy Twitter, and then Twitter saying no, because Elon Musk initially was just trying to become the head of the board. He was buying up certain percentages, etc. And then Twitter was like, you can buy 5% more, but you can never buy enough to become the head. And then Elon Musk said, screw it. I'm going to become the head of Twitter. I'm going to buy you outright. And then Twitter goes and they say, okay, we'll take your offer. And then Elon Musk says, hey, I'll accept the offer, but you have to prove that there's not this many bots. And then Twitter says, well, this is a sample size. And then Elon Musk says, that's a sample size of like 1,000 subscribers. That's not enough. You guys are fixing the algorithm that you're giving me, obviously. And then Elon Musk says, I won't take the offer. And they say, you have to take the offer. And this is what I think Trump's second term is going to look like. He figured out the problem. Just like Elon Musk, he came into Twitter. He said, I'm going to get this done. I'm going to solve this problem with this huge media platform. I'm going to solve it. And they say, well, solve it for this price, like way up here. And he says, well, it's down here now. It's cratered. And they're like, no, we need you to buy up here. And then Elon Musk is like, well, no, we're going to settle it down at this point. It's negotiations. And that's what Trump's doing on a persuasion level. He's exposing them. That's what's happening right now. Trump and through Trump's power of persuasion and his allies is exposing the hypocrisy of what's going on. And anybody that could possibly rival Trump looks at Trump and says, F that. He will destroy my career. I'd rather be his VP. There's going to be a bigger fight for people to become Trump's vice president than there will be in the nominations to become president on the Republican Party. Anybody that runs against.
I think DeSantis would be more effective as governor of Florida than as vice president, but I do think he should run for the term after. So yeah, it could be some figurehead kind of thing that doesn't that isn't the heir apparent, but is is somebody that gets things done like the way they did us with Cheney. And
no.
I guess
Let's actually.
But positive, not
say?
Not like Cheney, but Biden didn't run whenever Obama's second term was over, and Cheney didn't run when Bush's second term was over. So it'll be kind of like you need somebody that's not going to run for the next thing, but just be the head of the Senate.
My opinion, personally, I want Rand Paul to continue being the bulldog for another year or two. And then when Trump wins the nomination, I want Rand Paul to be accepted as the vice president. I want Trump and Rand Paul to run. So Rand Paul, vice president, Trump president. Every 4 years, I want Rand Paul to be president for 8 years. Yeah. I want Rand Paul to nominate Ron DeSantis as vice president. And then I want Ron DeSantis to run. And then hopefully by that time, we'll be able to convince enough of you libertarians, I'm talking to you, Andy, that Ted Cruz is a good guy.
I'm not really a libertarian. I'm not really anything. But this is fantasy football, basically. You're just like, oh yeah, I want this and this and this. There's so many agendas at play right now. Well, I'd love for Rand Paul to have some more power, but also I would rather have 5 other senators that are just as good as Rand Paul than Rand Paul get more power. You know what I mean?
Rand Paul's like the ultimate libertarian figure.
He's great.
The ultimate anti-authoritarian figure.
Dude, have you heard me do anything but praise Rand Paul? I'm just saying I would rather have 5 more Rand Pauls than Rand Paul be vice president or something like that. There's so many things that
if somebody,
but this is all just fantasy. We're just talking. We're just
But this is not fantasy. This is part of persuasion. If somebody like Rand Paul becomes vice president, then it boosts the profile of other people that talk and act like Rand Paul. It boosts that profile of anti-authoritarianism. That's what we need. That's part of persuasion. If Rand Paul gets in,
dude, mute for those, please. Jeez.
If Rand Paul,
I gotcha. I see what you're.
Rand Paul
I know what you're saying. I'm just saying that this is just dreaming. It's like, we're never gonna
how
see.
Is it dreaming? Who better? Because we both agree, Ron DeSantis needs to stay governor for another 8 years.
I understand. Okay, whenever did you ever watch wrestling?
No.
Okay, well,
I was busy biking. I was busy bicycling 40 miles a day to get to church.
Everything builds up to the pay-per-view, and you can't. So everything builds up to the pay-per-view, and in the pay-per-view, that's where the things happen. So think of the pay-per-view as the election years, like the presidential election years, right? And then you've got episodes all along the way, and some are more important than others and everything like that. But the whole time you're like, man, I really hope Stone Cold wins the championship at this next thing. And, like Triple H was so mean and all this other stuff. Now, dude, we're just thinking this stuff. Whenever the event actually happens, then, The Rock runs in and hits somebody with a chair and just things just go different. That's where the swerves happen and everything like that. They're just telling, this is all a story, and we can fantasize about this stuff all we want, but we might as well be playing a role-playing game or something like that.
But you speak it into existence. There's a different level of thinking where you actually speak these things into existence.
Okay.
There's a level.
Cool. Then 5 Rand Paul clones, and I'll speak that into existence.
So here's. Do you know Vinny? Me and Vinny were having a discussion for like 2 or 3 hours the other night, and I was trying to explain.
Dude, tell him to call me. Tell him to call me. Okay.
I will.
Okay.
If he answers my phone call after this. But me and Vinny were having a conversation, and I told Vinny, Ukraine is going to win. Do you know why?
Because you want it to, and you were watching the wrestling match, and that the World Economic Forum wants to make them win, and NATO and democracy and a whole bunch of other nonsense.
Nope, not at all. Nothing of that.
Okay.
It's the same reason America won the Revolutionary War.
Oh my God.
But what does that mean to you? I'll tell you that.
I mean, they're hopelessly outnumbered, and you could give them all the weapons in the world, and they'll just sell them on the black market, and continue to put money towards Zelensky's coke habit. Yeah, they're not going to win. They're going to. I mean, if Russia really wanted to hurt them, they could. Russia outnumbers them by a whole lot. I don't even need to explain this to you anymore, man. But statistically, it's just logistics.
But Russia cannot deploy mass levels of casualties against Ukrainian citizens because Russia has declared Ukrainian citizens are their own citizens. They've boxed themselves into a corner. Ukraine is going to win because Ukraine decided about 2 weeks ago that Ukraine was going to win. They chose that they were going to win. They were going to make it happen. They were going to make it work.
The writing team decided that was going to be the storyline of the week. This is like that war is real. It's actually not a war. It's a limited military engagement, or else Ukraine would be not even called the Ukraine anymore. And it's only been a country for 30 years, by the way. So they definitely won't get Donbass and Crimea back. They're done. There's no way they're going to win. And what they're fighting for is something terrible. What they're fighting for is to become a part of the globalist world order, and they're better off surrendering to Russia.
The point
because
is
it
not
really, like, the salvo that was shot originally was whenever Viktor Yanukovych was ousted for Zelensky, and Zelensky was an agent of the globalist, and now we're stuck in this crazy storyline that's going to make energy in Europe terrible throughout the winter. A whole bunch of people are going to suffer because of this.
I don't disagree.
Not just the people there suffering.
The point is whether or not they've been persuaded that they are going to win. It's a huh?
They're smoking crack if they think they're gonna win. They're hanging out with Hunter Biden a little bit too much in those Burisma meetings, because they have absolutely no chance of getting anywhere against Russia.
But they decided.
They decided that they were going to be a stooge puppet of NATO and the UN and all of these crazy powers that shouldn't be. And
they decided
they're going to suffer for it big time.
They decided they were going to win.
Yeah.
They made the choice.
We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I promise you.
But that's look, that's the choice that the founding fathers made. We're going to win, or we're all going to die.
These are Paul Bunyan stories, dude.
But that's
what you're dealing with here. This is Paul Bunyan stories, man. That's what's
Paul
happening
Bunyan.
here. Well, cool. I'm Hunter Biden.
My point is, there's a decision. There's a deciding point at which you decide you're going to win. You're not going to complain about the situation anymore. You're going to say, this is it. We're putting a pin in it here. This is the way the story is going to go, because we're deciding it. And we have a point to where we can decide right now in America whether we're going to slip into full-on communism, authoritarianism, and socialism, or whether we're going to stand out and actually be what America was founded to be. We have that choice. The founding fathers, basically every single signature written on the document, the Declaration of Independence, every single signature was, we are going to win or we will be hanged. That's what every single signature on that paper was. And they knew it. They would be hanged if they did not win. They chose, my hair is going the wrong way. There we go. That's better. They chose to stand up and say, this is the end. We are going to stand on this principle or we will die. And it was something like 10 to 20 years in the building. It was not some small little thing that some drunken person talked to another drunken person in the bar. It was a conglomeration of people saying, this ends here, and we have this choice once again. We have a choice to crush this authoritarian BS nonsense and say, okay, F you. That's our call, and that's I think Ukraine's going to win, because I don't
think that they're standing for anything big, though. They're standing for continually being used for human trafficking and being the most crime-ridden hellhole in Europe.
Well, in that case, that's a really good point. I think that's a really great point. I think the next point, the next level.
Terrible things happen there, and a lot of people don't know the reality of the terrible things that happen there, because the news made it sound like it was something different than what it was, and those they're much better off being ruled by Russia than they are trying to play this game that they're playing right now. And we're much better off. We're several $billion better off not getting involved.
No, I don't disagree with you there. I do not disagree with you there. For me, my entire reason for bringing this up was through a level of persuasion, but you actually brought up a great point. I think the next great understanding of this, the next, to see how serious they are, I think that they're going to need to come up with their own Declaration of Independence. This is why we're fighting.
The people that would be writing it for them are the same people that are trying to get us to drink cockroach milk.
Let's look at what they're... This is my point is this, that the point that I'm trying to bring across is that there's levels of persuasion and there's bad persuasion. There's persuasion towards comfort and there's persuasion towards freedom. That's what I'm trying to draw a distinction towards.
Gotcha. I'm not persuaded, but I want to move on. This one's funny.
Let me just say this last statement. I think that if your point I accept is valid. I think Ukraine made a decision, but if Ukraine's serious, it's going to come out with a Declaration of Independence. Is what's going to happen.
The people fighting in Ukraine are fighting because they have to. They'll be executed if they don't. That is their situation that they're in right now. It's every man under the age of 70 has to fight or they die.
From my understanding, it's actually the opposite for Russia.
Well, oh man. You found yourself some propaganda, friend. But let's move on to a funny story. This happened in California, and we'll head it over to Crystal and Zagar on Breaking Points.
And a perfect example of what I fear the most, which is what we see here in this video is a quote-unquote food neutrality talk by these TikTokers that includes a nutritionist. Now, the nutritionist in this video, we're going to play the full video for you, effectively says that caring about what you eat is bad and that there's no such thing as good food and bad food. What the video neglects to say is that the nutritionist, who goes by literal black nutritionist, talks about quote-unquote systems of oppression and all of this, is a senior nutrition scientist at Mondelez International, spun off from Kraft Foods, and makes the foods like Chips Ahoy, Oreo cookies, Sour Patch Kids, basically all sugary junk food
delicious
and snacks.
Things, but not good for you.
With that knowledge, now watch this video and see how much of an op that it is.
I got us donuts. Those are so bad for you. Oh no, are they moldy? I mean, are they poisoned? Are you allergic? No, I'm just saying. You're judging my food choices based on a false standard of health again, aren't you? Guilty.
Diet culture, fat phobia, and systems of oppression have created false hierarchies of food, and it shows up everywhere.
For instance, harmful thought patterns like earning food through exercising, or that dessert is the reward for the punishment of eating vegetables.
Remember that you do not need to earn food.
We are all incorrectly taught from a young age that our size, and therefore the foods that we eat, are markers of our self-worth. Moralizing food can lead to harmful relationships with food and disordered eating.
Instead of focusing on good and bad choices, try to approach food with neutrality in mind.
The only foods that are bad for you are foods that contain allergens, poisons, and contaminants, or food that is spoiled or is otherwise inedible.
Eat without guilt, regardless of what society says.
Eat without guilt, regardless of what society says. This is literally a corporate op in order to normalize like eating junk food. By the way,
social justice language to run a corporate op to be like, eat our Oreos.
Well,
buy more Oreos.
The crazy thing, Crystal, throw this next one up there on the screen, which is that part of her job description is, quote, innovation opportunities and driving the scientific evidence strategy to promote brands and support the business. As in, to use her, quote, black nutritionist label to try and normalize amongst this growing movement the idea that there's no such thing as good and bad food.
So this corporate agent from Chips Ahoy and Oreo and a whole bunch of junk food companies is telling you that you can't say that food is bad for you, and it's got all these obese women talking about it, and Dude, this is so crazy. She goes on, she's a nutritionist for a school. Man. And she makes TikTok videos promoting this stuff. This is so crazy.
I just one comment, just a simple comment. I was hanging out with a guy that I don't like hanging out with that much. He came over to my buddy's shop, and we were hanging out. We were drinking a beer earlier today, and he was like, "Oh yeah, like I eat a full meal once every other day." He's like 6'4". He was like 6'4", so he's like 2 or 3 inches taller than me. So he's a pretty tall guy, but he's lanky like me. It's like, oh yeah, I eat every now and again. I don't eat like 3 meals a day. And then my other buddies are like, yeah, I eat 3 meals a day, and they're larger. What do you need the difference of? I agree. I agree. There's genetics involved. If I ate 3 meals a day, I would become more toned because it's my body type. But if you overeat, you overeat. It's like my uncle is a lot larger than me, and he's from the same genetic family tree. Like my dad looks like me. My dad does not overeat. My uncle looks a lot larger than me. My uncle eats a whole lot more.
Yeah, my first time fasting was really weird because I had never tried it before. I made it almost 2 days, just a couple hours short of 2 days, and it was really weird and different. I figured out that if you eat salt, you're not hungry anymore. By the way, advice right there: if you just take a couple of salt crystals, not the kind of crystals that Hunter Biden has, salt, and it'll suppress your appetite. Drink plenty of water, and you're good. It was pretty cool though, just to learn that I could do that, and resist the urge.
Also, if you don't eat breakfast, your stomach won't expand, and then hunger comes from your stomach shrinking. If you need to lose weight, stop eating breakfast. It helps in 90% of the cases.
Okay.
There's certain people that have side issues.
I didn't know that.
But
we don't give medical advice yet again.
Oh yeah, no, we don't give medical advice.
None of this is medical advice. Yeah.
But
none of this
what
is
that
health
lady
advice.
said
Any
is
kind
the
of,
largest level. Eat whatever makes
she
you
works
happy.
for Chip Ahoy. So this is interesting. The craziest thing is that all these corporations, these crazy big corporations, they all have spies too. They have departments that are set up to put agents in places in order to accomplish things. It's not just lobbyists in congressmen's office. They put people in places so that they can do stuff like that. So they can promote unhealthy foods for people. Yeah.
Like creating the food pyramid, which was
right.
But still used.
Yeah. I mean, people still believe in the food pyramid. Yeah. And it's a crazy world we live in.
the only time. So this is the only time that I've heard. So when extreme cyclists or extreme other people, like both me and Andy O. I was trying to remember your name on screen. Me and Andy O are both cyclists. The only time that it is advised to eat whatever your body craves is when you're exercising so much that your body, you actually feel a demand. Like growing up, I was around a lot of cyclists. I worked at a bicycle shop, and I was bicycling 40 miles a day. And one of the guys I knew was a cyclist who he done 24-hour bicycle rides. And his advice was, whenever you do a bicycle ride, like serious, long, continuous bicycle rides, he essentially did the Tour de France in half the time, because he was just cycling nonstop. He didn't have a time stop on him. He would like sleep 4 hours a night, something like that, and keep going. And his advice was, eat whatever your body craves. One day my body will crave peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. the next day my body will crave steak. It's good advice if you're exercising a lot. It's really bad advice if you're a couch potato.
Right. Yeah, whenever I was a pedicab driver, that's a bicycle taxi, if you don't know what that is. It's basically a bicycle with a couch on the back for passengers. And yeah, I would eat sometimes 5 times a day, but trucking, I usually only eat 1 time a day because I'm sitting on my butt all day. So
yeah, totally different.
And your metabolism changes; it'll adjust to what you're doing. But let's get people to the dessert, the treat at the end. Since we're talking about desserts now, the treat at the end, it's on brand. It's called Babylon Step Back. It's by Blooded the Brave. It's from the album before his last one. I unfortunately can't remember the title of it. I have it. It's a great album. You should have all of his albums if you can. But anyway, yeah. Blooded the Brave, another guy that makes freedom music. And really, if I'm ever at the bottom of a well, I could pull any of his songs, and they're all great to talk about freedom. So yep.
Let me do a quick outro statement if we're going to the music video.
Okay.
Cool. So on Burn, Babylon Burn, I firmly believe that it's always best to have a discussion and disagreement on ideas. It's not good to live in a bubble. If you live in a bubble, you're never learning, you're never growing. So part of this channel's experience is to talk about ideas and disagree on ideas. If we're consistently agreeing on ideas, we're never expanding the conversation. We're just creating a microcosm to where you're never actually learning anything. You're just living in your own bubble. So we never want you to live in your own bubble. We want you to grow and expand and actually learn more about liberty, not conform to authoritarian mindsets. This has been Burn, Babylon Burn, episode 20.
That also being said, I got something else for you. I made us a Telegram room. It's t.me/Burn Babylon Burn because you can't start them with 3s. And so if you go in there, welcome in. I can meet the feds that follow our show. And yeah, so and if you haven't seen, there's a spin-off YouTube channel that simulcasts Mud's YouTube channel, and that's going to be our main channel for these 2 shows, Burn Babylon Burn and the Doom Kitchen. And just yesterday, I recorded the 2nd episode of the Doom Kitchen, and if you get a chance, please check that out. It's with my good friend Trevor Green, and we talk about S hitting the H, or wait, shit hitting the fan. But I wanted to do the letters, but I just stumbled all over them. SHTF.
Yeah.
SHTF. Anyway, check that out. It went really well. And if you haven't seen the first episode with the Drizzle from Grand Theft World Liberty Radio, that one is extremely worthwhile. And he just put out new Liberty Radio just yesterday, and it was awesome. And with that, let's give you the donut, the dessert, the Chips Ahoy. Here it is, Babylon Step Back by Blooded the Brave.
Wanna flee, I got a scope zoomed in on the sniper in the trees. What's around? If the devil wanna flee, I got a scope zoomed in on the sniper in the trees. What's around? If the devil wanna flee, I got a scope zoomed in on the sniper in the trees.
I grew up round ratchets and hatchets and spit these words on a tablet and leave them etched in stone. And yes, so cut to the bone and full blown. Full-blooded, Irish and defiant. To those on the throne, I collect the crowns of tyrants. I'm the rebel alliance who moves in silence and answers the call to all the victims of violence. We bust to hush the lies of the unjust and shut them up the same way they put us in cuffs. I'm tested and stressed and could be under arrest in a second into rest under a flag in the mess. It's the change you fear, so check yourself in the mirror and gut check your chest. and see what you hear. You shook and I get it, but don't do it, don't hit it. That's what they want, the beef and a reason to knock out your front teeth if you speak. The venom of a beast is poison to anyone who believes in peace. So stay away and save yourself from the lies, cause a gun and it will come with tanks and knives. Look alive, but not at your peephole. Hope you got that iron flush bolt from Home Depot, cause they drill to kill and steal from us all and made us slaves in the name of the law.
I'm surrounded, but I will wanna flee. I got a scope zoomed in on the sniper in the trees. I'm surrounded, but I will wanna flee. I got a scope zoomed in on the sniper in the trees. I'm surrounded, but I will wanna flee. I got a scope zoomed in on the sniper in the trees. I'm surrounded, but I will wanna flee. I got a scope zoomed in on the sniper in the trees.
From up here, it's clear I could see him through the fear and way past the doubt. Have they used to take you out? No blood on your chest, but you're dead with no breath. No mess, but you killed. They took away your free will. It's ill, and no, I don't need to prove it. Just look at how they're told. They're giving orders to do it. Drones flown by dead men with no souls who can't wait to be told who they killed. Now that's cold, and why I'm heated and refuse to be frozen. Ever look up to those who just do what they're told. I'm hot as steel that's folded into a sword and given to a son that he's stuck in the Lord. This is war, and what it sounds like to bite back. A psychopath who struck first blood and attack. I'm John Rambo with camo pack with pounds of ammo, and will unleash on the beast who won't leave me in peace. Can I live? Or is it too much to ask to keep my own money instead of funding the bloodbath? I want it back. This is death of the tax and the rise of freedom. Babylon, step back.
I'm surrounded, but I will wanna flee. I got a scope zoomed in on the sniper in the trees. I'm surrounded, but I will wanna flee. I got a scope zoomed in on the sniper in the trees. I'm surrounded, but I will wanna flee. I got a scope zoomed in on the sniper in the trees.